Order, make sure your phone's on mute, speak to the microphone. Let's go with some roll call. John Rocha,
Here.
Janie Evans,
Here.
Debbie Savawini,
Here.
Sandy Griffith,
Here.
Tom Benson,
Present.
and I see Clark. Hi, Clark. Boy, did you slide in.
Oh, you know, I just.
You made it. If I'd be a teacher, I would say thank you very much. Thank you, Councilman. And Deborah Miller. I don't see Deborah here or her son.
Deborah was going to possibly attend via Zoom. She started a new job today, so I do not see her on Zoom.
So do we show her as Zoom? How do you show Deborah Miller?
She's actually not here today.
It's just an absence.
Yep.
Okay,
If she jumps in, I'll let you know.
thank you. All right. I think we're going to move to approval of the minutes for July 20th, 2022 CAC meeting. Everybody read their minutes like they should.
How would we miss them?
Don't you dare miss those minutes. They'll keep you right on the edge of your chair. So if everybody has, and Sandy,
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the July 20th, 2022 minutes of the Citizens Advisory Committee meeting.
and that would be Sandy Griffith.
Got it.
And I understand you want a name. Was that only when we were downstairs and doing Zoom?
Oh, I think it was for John's benefit if he knew who was talking, because not everyone was showing up on the camera downstairs, so it's
So
okay.
we're fine with that. All right, then I need a second, please.
I'll second the motion.
And
John Rocha.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That takes care of our minutes. Thank you very much. And let's move on to update on Prescott Cares.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the committee, for approving the minutes. And I'm going to move down to agenda item number 2 on our agenda. And that is an update on the Prescott Cares program. So as you know, I gave you all an update last month, and I said I would come back this month with more details in terms of recommended changes that you had made and some better descriptions of the timeline. We have had 2 more individuals. Well, the one person was approved for the first phase, and then we have had one person who just has to get some more paperwork in, and then I think that'll probably wrap it up. So you notice that in this staff report on the update to Prescott Cares, there's a little bit less money in the pot for phase 2, 164,874. 20 small business is the same. We added an additional person, so now it's 18 people that have been served. Probably the total will go up to 19 families served, and that's it for phase 1. And we'll put all that rest of that money in phase 2, which we talked about. Phase 2 has to be the same kind of program parameters as phase 1. It'll have to tie back to the pandemic somehow. So either preventing future pandemics, responding to the current pandemic. It'll have to fall under a traditional CDBG allowable expense. And then it will need to be public facility rehab or infrastructure improvements related to the pandemic. So not for personal residences. And I have not changed the document that I showed you all last month significantly, other than the timeline. So I won't go through significantly through this document because it hasn't really changed. One thing I learned since we last met, HUD has moved from the DUNS number. You guys are all familiar with the DUNS number. They have this thing called a unique entity ID, UEI. So they've transitioned away from the DUNS number, and now everyone has to have a UEI. So I will be updating the application. Any future CDBG applications that the city puts out will, instead of having what's your DUNS number, it will have what's your UEI? And I will have a link to explain to applicants how to obtain a UEI. They should probably be issued a UEI automatically. Unique entity identification number automatically if they already are in DUNS. If they've never been in DUNS and they need an identification number, I'll have a link on the application that will show them exactly how to get that done. So obviously I'll need to update this language here where it references the DUNS number because we won't be using that any longer. That change was certified on April 4th, 2022. So nothing else in terms of eligible facilities has changed. I updated this timeline. So as you remember last month, this all said to be determined because I hadn't really figured out yet what kind of timeline we were looking at, and I wanted to get your feedback if you were open to running it parallel with the traditional entitlement funds application process. So this follows our traditional entitlement fund process. So we'd have October workshop, December application workshop. We would have the applications due in June. I'd be happy to set up the tours again as we did back in 2020, early 2022. And scores, subcommittee, final approval by the city council in April, submittal to HUD in May of 2023. I can't even believe I'm saying 2023. It feels like things are going so quickly. So then when you get your application information for the traditional CDBG pot, that timeline will look parallel to this. That concludes my presentation on the Phase 2 application process. Did you have any questions regarding that part?
Shall I do?
Yes.
And I'll turn it back to the board. The traditional CDBG moves right along with the Prescott Cares package, and we've got same dates, same time, same information. Is that going to be confusing to anybody as well as the board? Do we get a packet for Prescott Cares? Do we get a packet for CDBG? How are you going to do it?
So that's a great question, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I actually have an application attached here, and this will explain kind of how it differs from the traditional application. So originally I was using the language RFQ, request for qualifications. That's not what this is. Because a request for qualifications is we're asking somebody to do our administrative work on behalf of the city. This is really an application for a construction project, and it will run parallel. So there'll be two different applications, two different workshops, but a parallel due dates, parallel timelines, parallel council approval, because I can put all of this in the same report to HUD. I had a call with them last Friday, and they said if I didn't have the CARES Act 2, I had her look over my whole, proposal and everything. If I hadn't had the CARES Act 2 facility description in our 2020 action plan, I'll need to go back and do a substantial amendment to our 2020 action plan, which is another kind of bureaucratic step, but it just means bureaucratic work on my part and publishing in the paper, bringing it to you all. So I'll need to go back and review that. But I can go through this quickly and just kind of show where it's different from the traditional application. I don't have the entitlement application ready yet. I've started with this one, and then next month I'll bring that traditional application to you all to review as well. So as I said, this is going to need to get changed to the unique identity number. Right now it says DUNS. I just found out that they're moving to a different number.
So do you foresee that the subcommittee would be the same people? Would they be reviewing both applications at the same time? Would that cause a bit of confusion?
So
Or within, go ahead.
Sure, Madam Chair, members of the committee. So the programs will run similar. So you'll have an application for the construction for the CARES Act money. You'll have a public service application for the entitlement money. You'll have a construction application for the entitlement money. Everybody will review all applications.
Right.
Then we'll score. You'll send your scores to me. I'll compile them, then I will get them to the subcommittee, whoever that is, and we'll decide that in a future date. Typically, the whole board nominates a subcommittee and the votes on it. Then they kind of crunch the numbers, they give a recommendation, and then I bring that full recommendation back. So everybody will see every application, everybody will score every application, and everyone on the committee will have final say on what goes to the city council.
Sandy,
Thank
thank you
you.
for raising your hand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have some concerns. I feel that the pandemic concerns have significantly left our lives. I don't see a lot of social distancing going on. I don't see new construction taking place with pandemic parameters. And I'm just talking out loud. With the projects that we have listed for Phase 2, I wonder if we're not setting some of this up for failure. I personally don't see a lot coming in to use this money. And I just want to hear from my fellow commissioners. I know we have it already set, but I have concerns over it. And then I have some concerns over the dollar amounts. I guarantee you, anything with the construction, based on some of the parameters or the titles that we've outlined, one of those projects could easily eat up $150,000 if they're going to do any sort of remodeling to go with social distancing or pandemic concerns. So I'm just talking.
John?
Can I add to that? Because I do have a couple of things that I think would make sense to maybe address at the same time. So, because I did look at the scope of work, and I can definitely understand like Sandy's perspective. I was just going to ask here more of a general question: is does the scope of work that's shown here on this document, is that essentially just kind of from HUD, Michelle? Does it come from HUD, or is this just internally what the city of Prescott or you, or what you think we should be doing for scope of work?
So we receive kind of fact sheets from HUD that talks about, again, everything has, this pot of money only, everything has to tie back to the pandemic, either responding to the quote coronavirus or thinking about the future, because this isn't going to be the only pandemic we go through probably. So they have things that are kind of buckets of things that would make sense, that are kind of prefab ideas about things to put out there for the communities to spend the money on. It's a very limited focus for this pot of money of what we can spend it on. So these were ideas that I took off of a worksheet from other communities that have done similar work such as this. And I'm trying to kind of create a narrower funnel, because I feel like, and when I go through the application that's attached to this, there's a checkbox for other. So if it's a school, schools are not listed on here. If a school wants to add a quarantine space, or say an outdoor learning space, or a different kind of, we have a lot of folks who have talked about needing to have different outdoor spaces where people can gather or social distance that they didn't have before. They could apply also. It's not, but these are kind of the basic, giving people ideas of what could be applied for.
So to Sandy's point, in essence, it's because I understand too that frustration a little bit to go. It always seems like we're a little bit behind, but that's just how it is. As far as there might not be too much of a need now for what has happened with COVID, but if we're preparing and we're kind of within the confines of what the federal government or HUD wants to dictate to us and say, this is what this money has to be used for, whether you like it or not. I think definitely something I would just put out to the floor for the committee is that, we do remember it might seem light now, but in the moment, I think we were very concerned for our senior citizens and residences in City of Prescott. You know, a lot of kind of hurt and discomfort, and it was a hard time for many folks. So I guess for me, it's just understanding that if all of these topics, medical facilities, clinics, emergency shelters, day access shelters, is this essentially all of the categories, if you will, that HUD recommends, or are those, I'm just trying to understand if this is the full gamut of scope of work, or if there's more that maybe we should consider as a committee.
There could be others I've seen buckets for like broadband expansion. That's kind of a reach, on my opinion. It could be expansion of a hospital. Again, I took discretion. I could
Sure.
bring you the exact document that I looked at to kind of come up with this. With $262,000, I don't think we're going to be adding a new wing to a hospital. They had things like adding a new wing to a hospital, adding on, you know, how we have our hospital has kind of like, I want to say Quonset hut, but they built those. I just don't think we have enough dollars for certain types of projects. So I didn't put, but medical facility, it could be, you know, even simply changing your waiting room, you know, in your medical facility, creating a separate place in the daycare, or expanding spaces and shelters. Another one that I've seen, I mean, there's such a large parameter, a spectrum of possibilities of what could be. So I tried to take a 2-pager, an example, and kind of narrow it down. Some other things that could be, there may be things I haven't thought of that are eligible. People will call me in that during the application. So we'll have a workshop in October, and we'll talk about, everybody will throw out their ideas. So we had 37 people at our last workshop last October. They'll throw ideas. What about this? What about that? Is this eligible? Is that eligible? We'll answer as many of questions as we can. And then also during the application process, people will call me and they'll say, hey, I'm thinking about applying for XYZ. Do you think this will be eligible? Is it worth my time? And I can go through the HUD rules and look and see if any of it has to meet a national objective and a national activity to be approved. So I'll look and I'll let them know, yes, it's approved or not. So there may be things on here I haven't thought of. Things not on here that I haven't thought of that somebody in the community will come up with in October.
I think for the sake of just understanding HUD a little better, I think I would like to request having that document of what HUD, you know, what categories HUD has completely, if you're not opposed to that, Madam Chair.
I'm not, and I believe that, Michelle, you can get that out to all board members.
Yes, I actually have it right here. It's 3 pages. They have a worksheet with check boxes, and it shows
Solid
like
night reading right
prevent, prepare, respond, land acquisition, building acquisition, conversion. I didn't put all that on there because I think it's confusing. And this is more, the detail level of this is more for me when I look at, does it fit, yes or no? But I can send this out to you all on email.
That'd be great.
So you're fine with the email?
Yeah, that'd be great, yeah.
Yep.
And just for me, it's more educational just to kind of really see what HUD has as these macro categories.
Right, that makes sense.
Okay, John, you're done?
I think for now. Sorry, I'm going through my questions.
Sandy set her hand up. You know, we want equal time for each of you. So it's Sandy's turn. Sandy.
Very picture of patience.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councilman Tinney. The listing of the headings, the categories, Michelle, do those categories go to the applicants when they pull up their application? Do they see this?
Yes, Madam Vice Chair, they do see this. I'm going to scroll back down, excuse me, to the application. So it's very similar to the entitlement application, except for there's a lot more description in the scope of work. The first part's very similar to what you guys will see with the traditional application. The there's a program overview that explains when we got the money. It explains how much this number will probably change, the 164,000 that we spent. But it's actually we have more COVID money than we do with our annual allotment right now. So I would hate to not jump on this and start moving forward, because they can scoop it back if we don't spend it by a certain date.
Totally agree.
Yep.
But my thought process with the headings in the scope of work, if we could drill down on those and come in a little more user-friendly and share some items with them and give them examples versus the scientific statements from HUD, because just this morning, I've already gained a much larger understanding of what can be done with some of that money versus reading these headings. I know that creates more work for you, but I feel if we brought it down to an easier understanding and give them examples, maybe.
So I would suggest that you keep the language and then do an example.
Correct. Absolutely.
Like under medical facilities.
Absolutely.
Yavapai County will expand the morgue.
Yes,
You
exactly.
know, something like that.
Yes.
Or a medical doctor's office
Just examples.
will have a separate entrance for any possible communicable disease. Things like that. Is that?
I think that's excellent. You know, and maybe give some examples somewhere in here if they wanted to install a plexiglass coverings,
right.
you know, just to give them some examples. Just-
Or the city of Prescott, instead of having cubicles, have actual, because that's one of the things that they're saying is they don't want open cubicles anymore, that they want it very divided.
I think that's doable. Committee members, I think we can add an example under each one of these. What's a concrete example of something that falls under these buckets?
Maybe a couple examples, just not one. You know, a couple, more than two.
I think, you know, that, again, I also hear concerns from the committee on a regular basis about the length of the applications. So I think it's a great idea to have more detail, but I'm not sure it shouldn't be like a separate web page or something. Like, click here for examples, you know, rather than putting more text. This part of the application is really heavy. It's text heavy already. Maybe I could have like a link and say, click to this web page for examples, and then put a bunch of examples on the page.
That's a good idea.
Excellent.
So you're good with that?
I'm perfect.
Okay.
So that first part is just the examples, and then we have the project description, project name, org, zip, et cetera, and then we have the type of project where it has the buckets, and then it has other, because there may be things nobody's thought of. And HUD just gives a few examples. They don't cover everything. There's no way to have everything covered, but we can definitely give examples. The project narrative, 50,000 word max. How many people are you going to serve? What are your goals for supporting, if applicable? And then production of new units, if applicable. Not everybody's project would be new housing. It could be expansion of a particular waiting area. It could be putting up plexiglass. It could be designing a new entrance to a clinic, that kind of thing.
What about bringing in new water filtration fountains?
When they shut them down.
Yeah.
Like the one out here in the hall?
Yes, with new, healthier water, where now you can fill bottles and not have to worry about getting your mouth there. That would be kind of cool.
That makes sense.
That's very
HEPA
doable.
filters.
Yep, HEPA filters
I
is
think I saw that in there.
definitely one of the examples in the actual buckets.
The
Is
big one.
there's some filters that filter down to the virus, and so if you have a facility with elderly or people that are vulnerable, it might be good to see what one of those costs.
What if they wanted to buy a HEPA filter air machine?
So the way the construction dollars work with HUD is whatever they submit for reimbursement to me, it has to be stay put. It can't be something someone can take out
Oh,
of the
okay.
building.
Perfect.
So it has to be part of the physical structure.
But they can put in a 6-inch HEPA filter into the HVAC system easy.
Absolutely.
Now you've finished.
Yes, Chair.
Could I check with the other members, and John has another.
I only have two real, quick things here. Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This was just a quick question for me. So on the DUN number, which now is the UEI number, how easy is it for somebody like an applicant to obtain that? Like, what's the process look like there? I've never asked that, but I'm curious.
So there is a website called sam.gov, sam.gov, and people seem to be fairly familiar with the process. It's not that difficult to do. And once you get your DUNS number, I think you automatically get a unique ID. And when you log in to get your unique ID, it'll be similar to the process to get a DUNS. So I don't think it'll be too difficult.
So you're thinking like is this, because I know, for example, if you go and apply for an EIN number with the federal government, you could get it almost instantly online.
That's how this is.
It's the same thing? Okay, got it. As far as just going back to the categories that we've talked about, Michelle, can you share with us any kind of maybe feedback from, like, say some of these folks, like maybe it's Dignity Health Hospital, maybe it's an emergency shelter in town, maybe it's a day access shelter place that we have in the, within the city limits or something. Have you heard, or can you share any of that kind of feedback of maybe during the pandemic or even after, what folks feel like they need the most help with? Or like, say, for example, is there a need that the hospital has voiced already to, in utilizing these funds, whether it be them or someone else?
That's a good question, members of the committee. I have not reached out directly to healthcare facilities, daycares, adult daycares, youth daycares. This is a little bit different, population who hasn't traditionally applied for a CDBG before. So we'll need to kind of expand our reach in terms of reaching out, I think, for the fall workshop. And we have, if you have connections with the healthcare community, Tom, I know, Mr. Benson, you said you had in the the sober homes community, some contacts there. I would love to hear,
Matt Forrest, too.
Matt Forrest, too. I would love to hear your ideas. You can email me any people you know in the community who you'd like me to reach out to, and I'll add them to my list. We do outreach through the nonprofits particularly. They're very familiar with our work, our program money. But with the healthcare and the private healthcare and senior centers, stuff like that. Like, I thought of the adult center with their gazebo. I know their gazebo project was originally a big scope, but something like a gazebo at an outdoor center, again, we don't have $2 million, but something that's an outdoor learning center for, so where seniors gather is a definite potential project that they could apply.
And we're going to be, so we can reach out to the chamber, right? And have the chamber help us with a list of something maybe on the for-profit side.
for
'Cause they're
sure.
the subrecipient, they're the facilitator essentially.
The chamber's a
know this.
partner on this in terms of getting the word out, but they're not going to be actually managing the applicants. That'll
Okay.
be me, and you'll be the ones
Got it.
scoring and making the final decisions.
Okay, that was one other thing I was going to ask. I'm good. Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate it.
Madam Chair, just make a quick comment. You asked about whether I was still on the board for CCJ. I was there the other day. I'm not on the board, but they take in 12 homeless people every night. And I asked, how many do you turn away? And they said, we're continually turning people away from homeless shelters. So that would be something I think that may apply here to expand their homeless shelter aspects. Is
Is-
that true?
As long as we can, if they can, the expansion ties to preventing pandemic spread.
Yeah.
If they want to apply just for expanding their shelter, they would apply through the traditional entitlement funds.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. I'll talk to him about that.
There you go, an example. Are you collecting information right now for that October 19th workshop? Is that out yet?
Not yet.
When do you plan to do that?
When do I
September?
plan to do outreach? So October, we typically start a couple weeks ahead. We find that if we do too far ahead, they forget about it. Too close, they're not able to adjust their schedules. So October 19th, we would probably start, early to mid-September to start getting the word out.
Because what I'm hearing for the board, we have a few suggestions.
Yes,
that
you can
some
give
of
them to me
this
right now if you want.
Can fall under.
I'd be happy to take down names that people you want me to reach out to. I can,
So as soon as.
yep,
and
or
thank you.
email me your ideas.
Okay, that sort of takes care of that question, thank you. All right, any more from what we've heard, or feel pretty secure in where this is going, how it's going to be worked? And again, just for time purposes, anything that you come up, Michelle is very available via email or anywhere else, so come up with suggestions. I think we'd love to hear it next time.
Okay, I'll just finish quick going through the application. Everything else is very similar to the traditional CDBG report application. It asks for the financial information. It asks for examples. They can attach documents if they'd like to. Project budget and timeline. This is just a one-year pot of money, so we're not, saying apply for 3 years because it is just a 1 year. It talks about, the rules for procurement. That has not changed. The having to go to PAC has not changed, so I put links. This does not translate well to this document. I apologize that you can't see this, but this is on the web. It shows up very well as a hyperlink to all the Davis-Bacon links, and there's a hyperlink to how to get on the PAC, and I explain exactly how to do a pre-application conference, how to get to that on our Trackit, Central Square Trackit system. And then quarterly timeline activities, budget, and then they can attach any additional photos they would like or bids or quotes they've already gotten for portions of the project. Collaborative application. We have not had collaborative applications in the past, but it's always an opportunity. And then who's the project lead? The rest is all pretty template. They have to certify that they accept all these rules that the feds require, and then a signature and my number to ask questions. So next month, I'll bring back, I'll bring to you the actual entitlement. I'll have that completed. Since this was something new, I wanted to tackle this first, just because I had to think differently. And that is all that I have on that item.
Updated program timeline.
Okay, the last thing is just upcoming. This isn't like anything you have to vote on or review or anything. It's just updates. The analysis of impediments to fair housing update is something the city is required to do every 5 years when we do our consolidated plan. And we're using the 2020 census data, which we didn't actually get until end of 2021, early 2022. So I think it's timely that we're doing this update now with the better data, more current data on the city. So I'm hoping to bring that to you in September and then to the council in October. You met Sedona Ortega. She came to the last meeting when we met in the basement. She's actually off to Reed College in Portland, Oregon. But I'm going to hopefully co-present with her via Zoom, because she did a lot of heavy lifting on this report. And I want to make sure that she gets credit for the work that she did. And she's like a brilliant woman. So anything we can do to highlight Sedona's work is great. That'll be coming up. So we'll have a couple agenda items next month that might, well, the applications won't take a lot of time because you all are very familiar with that. But the housing report, it's about 100 pages. So that comes with, a lot of those pages are like maps and things like that. It's an appendix. There's a hefty appendix, but I think it's actually longer than the consolidated plan. So that meeting might be a little longer. So I'll have an update to the regular program timeline. And then I will have a minor home repair update, which I have here. This is my folder. I'm super proud of this. We have 5 approved applicants, and myself, Sherry Heine, and Ryan Green, our chief building official, went out and did all the site visits this week. We did 3 yesterday and 2 today. And I've got photos. Ryan is writing up the scope for all the work that's to be done. People are super grateful and so happy the city's doing this program. And I'm super happy because you can tell that they really need the help. The people that we visited with, you can tell that they really need.
That's good.
It's life safety issues. It's just like we put forward. A lot of it is heating and cooling and life safety, building code violations, stuff like that. So I'll bring that update to you all on next month, hopefully.
Can I make a quick comment
Sure.
about that, Madam Chair? Is that all right, Michelle?
Please.
So I was in a meeting, I don't know, what's it been, George, 3 weeks ago maybe with Ryan. We were talking about workforce housing and some, John was there as well, workforce housing and some issues and how in some cases they're as they go through the process with people, hey, you got to get this fixed. It's not up to code. It's unsafe, et cetera. People just are in a spot where they can't do it. And rarely, but occasionally it leads to condemnation and things that are difficult for everybody. And he was talking about the importance of, if we had some little grants that people could tap into to fix things. And so it's so great that you've closed the loop with him and you found folks in our community who are facing some of those issues that are not only convenience and health and safety issues for them, but kind of put them at odds with code and safety concerns there, and that we're really helping some people out that way. I appreciate this group and you, the two of you, with your leadership especially.
Michelle, I have a question.
Thank you, Councilmember Tenney. I just said thanks.
Thank you, Councilman.
Appreciate you.
Sure.
With the minor home repair program, you have X amount of dollars to do that. When you spend down to that, is there more funding that comes into that program, or that's the end of the home repair program?
So we have 5, we've received 9 applications. We've got 5 people approved, but I'm sure that we could do much more. I'm sure the need is great in the community. And hopefully we can continue to add to this pot. So when we spend this first allotment, we might have extra funds from previous years. So, I can go through and review. A lot of times our grantees don't use up everything. They may say, we need 50,000, but they only spend 42. And there's like $7,000 floating around somewhere. And I call that pulling up the caps. I go looking underneath every rock to see where we can pull funds from. Then we just keep adding to the home repair program so we can keep serving residents.
Okay, thank you. Sandy?
Madam Chair, just to let you know, Michelle, with our home repair program and Councilman Tinney, YCCA, I have grant money to help homeowners as well with needs that are life safety. I don't have $10,000 at a time to help, but there are dollars there, and we've already helped a few. So if we can contribute somehow or take some of these on our own, if they're not able to be funded, our resource, I'm saying, is out there.
So, Vice Chair, may I ask a question of you? So if someone who, are you offering actually dollars for the repair, or are you offering labor?
I offered dollars for the repair, and my labor is through our members, and they are contributing with some nice discounts
Okay.
to offset these expenses.
That's good to know, because we had an instance today, this morning, where the repairs were going to be way more than $5,000. So right now, each project is capped at $5,000. And the idea came up, could we find another nonprofit where we could partner and we could put in 5, they could put in 5, and this person could get this whole thing? And Ryan came up with a great solution that was cheaper, that worked. But there may be instances where we might reach out to you and say, hey, can we partner on this? Because we only have so much for right now. And who knows, maybe 5 years from now, we might have more money,
Correct.
even more money. We might be able to pay for things like roof replacements. But right now, we're just doing, there's people that, don't have heat. So that's a huge issue.
Debbie?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes,
Vice?
yes, Ms.
So
Savoni.
your money is not tied to CBG,
Correct,
so they don't have to be low
correct,
income.
correct.
So that is also, when you have somebody on the border that don't qualify, then this might really definitely be another resource.
Yeah, I will make sure, do you have a website?
It's not, I don't
Vice Chair?
advertise this.
So I will just
Talk this
send an
morning
email.
to my team.
I will just let you know that I will let Sherry at the chamber to tell her people and her that if people are over income level, that you have a secret, like a program, not a secret, but you have a program also.
Welcome to call to see if we can help offset that or contribute in any way.
It sounds
Got it.
better if it's a secret program.
I know, it is a secret program.
Good to know that there's resources out there.
Madam Chair, can I
Please.
throw one question in there? And I do apologize if this has already been answered in prior meetings, but Michelle, we can, as a committee, if set aside also for this home repair program, say $10,000 on the next entitlement or procurement process, right? So if we go, that's going to be up to consideration of the committee at that point to go, okay, this is such a great program. It's doing really good. Our folks here at the city really need it. And so at that point, we don't need any special permission to go, we want to allocate another 10, 15,000 from this year's allotment into the home repair program.
Yes,
Okay.
100%. You can decide to set aside funds for this program in particular. And that means the construction grants that we would have available would be less because it would be going to residential
Sure.
rehabilitation.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, John. Okay, anything else from you, Michelle?
That was it. That's all I had today. I've got my next month's going to be packed. The agenda's going to be pretty
We're
full.
going to help you. Anything from the board for Michelle? All right, so with that, then I'm going to say I'll move for adjournment.
So moved.
Second,
Yes, Madam Chair, second.
and we're adjourned at 2:13. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Michelle.